Stay close. We must hurry.
I'm scared. Where are we going?
To safety, trust me. Do not be afraid, my child.
Yes, Father.
I am here with you.
When you picture ancient Japan, what comes to mind? Is it the stoic samurai, bound by the code of Bushido, or the powerful shoguns, ruling from magnificent castles? Maybe you think of elegant geishas entertaining in lantern-lit tea houses, or the serene beauty of the Imperial court. It's a world of honor, discipline, and tradition. But behind the shimmering silk robes and gilded screens, another world existed. A quieter, hidden world. This was the world of male concubines. History is filled with stories of female concubines, women who lived within the walls of palaces and noble estates, their lives tied to powerful men. But history rarely speaks of the young men who lived similar lives. These were the boys and youths, often called chigo or wakashu, whose beauty and talent brought them into the inner circles of Japan's elite. Their stories weren't written in bold letters. Their voices were whispers, easily erased by time. So, who were these young men? They weren't just servants. Many were from respectable families, sometimes even lower-ranking samurai, who were sent to serve in temples or aristocratic households. It was seen as a path to education, social advancement, and a way to build valuable connections. These youths, celebrated for their beauty and grace, were trained in the arts poetry, music, dance. They were companions, confidants, and often much more. The practice, known as Shudo, or the way of the young, was deeply ingrained in the samurai and monastic cultures of medieval and early modern Japan. It was a complex relationship, often framed as a mentorship. An older, more experienced man, the ninja, would guide a younger one. The wakashu in matters of life, art, and even warfare. In return for this guidance and patronage, the younger man offered loyalty, companionship, and affection. This wasn't seen as scandalous. It was considered a refined and even noble form of love, celebrated in literature and art. Samurai texts often praised these bonds as purer than relationships with women, believing they fostered loyalty and transcended worldly distractions. In the Buddhist temples, the tradition was just as prevalent. Young acolytes, or shigo, were revered almost as divine beings. Their youthful beauty was thought to be a temporary vessel for Buddhist deities. Senior monks would take them under their wing, educating them in sacred texts and rituals. These relationships, while spiritual, also had an intimate dimension that was an open secret within monastic communities. The famous tales of the Hikemonogatari and other classical works often feature these beautiful young acolytes who capture the hearts of powerful warriors and monks alike. Life for a male concubine, however, wasn't always a tale of romantic mentorship. Just like their female counterparts, their existence was entirely dependent on the favor of their patron. They lived in a world of intense jealousy and rivalry. A shift in their patron's affection could mean a loss of status, privilege, and security. Their beauty was their currency, and as it faded with age, so did their position. When a wakashu came of age, usually in his late teens or early 20s, he would undergo a coming-of-age ceremony called Genpei. His youthful hairstyle would be changed. He would begin to carry two swords like a full-fledged samurai, and he was expected to marry and start a family. The Shudo relationship would then formally end. For some, the transition was smooth, their former patron helping them secure a good marriage and a stable career. For others, it was a fall from grace, leaving them with few prospects and a past they couldn't speak of. The stories of these young men offer a completely different view of Japan's past. They challenge our modern ideas about love, gender, and power. They reveal a society where relationships were far more fluid and complex than we often imagine. Their lives, lived in the shadows of history, remind us that the past is never as simple as it seems. There are always hidden stories. Ever wondered about the hidden lives within the lavish courts of ancient Japan? We often hear stories of geishas and empresses, but there's another, less told tale of power, beauty, and ambition. This is the story of male concubines, figures who occupied a unique and influential space in the highest echelons of Japanese society. Let's travel back to the Heian period, a time of incredible artistic refinement and courtly intrigue, and later into the feudal era, dominated by powerful shoguns and samurai. In these worlds, it wasn't just women who caught the eye of the powerful. Emperors, nobles, and high-ranking warriors often kept male companions, a practice known as pseudo, or the way of the young. But who were these men? Amale concubine, or koshu, as they were sometimes called, was far more than just a servant. They were meticulously chosen, handpicked for their exceptional beauty, sharp intelligence, artistic talents, and captivating charm. Think of them as living works of art, selected to adorn the lives of the most powerful men in the land. Their journey often began at a young age. A boy from a lower-ranking samurai family, or even a commoner with striking looks, could be brought into an elite household. There, he would be educated in literature, music, dance, and the intricate etiquette of the court. His role was complex. He was a companion, a confidant, and sometimes a lover. He provided entertainment, conversation, and an aesthetic presence that was highly valued. Imagine living in a gilded cage. These men were surrounded by silks, exquisite art, and the finest foods. They participated in poetry contests, moon-viewing parties, and intimate gatherings. Their proximity to power was their greatest asset. A favored companion could influence his lord's decisions, secure promotions for his family, and wield a subtle but significant form of political power. He was a gatekeeper to the lord's ear, and many would try to curry favor with him to get closer to the top. However, this life was not without its dangers and strict rules. The world of the court was a web of jealousy and rivalry. A male concubine had to be constantly vigilant, navigating the shifting allegiances and hidden agendas of other courtiers, ladies-in-waiting, and even rival companions. His position was entirely dependent on the affection and favor of his patron. If that favor waned, or if he aged and his youthful beauty faded, he could be cast aside in an instant. The relationship was often deeply personal and emotional. Many historical texts and literary works from the period, like the Tale of Genji, hint at these profound bonds. These weren't just transactional arrangements. They could involve genuine affection, loyalty, and heartbreak. The aesthetic of the time celebrated a delicate, almost androgynous beauty in young men, and this ideal was central to the culture of male companionship. As Japan moved into the more militaristic Edo period, the role of the koshu evolved. For a samurai lord, his young attendant was not only a companion but also a bodyguard, an apprentice warrior. This relationship was seen as a way to instill loyalty, discipline, and the samurai code of honor. The bond between an older warrior and his young attendant was considered a pure and noble form of love, strengthening their commitment on and off the battlefield. So, the story of male concubines in Japan is a fascinating look into a different aspect of power and relationships. It challenges our modern perceptions and reveals a world where beauty, influence, and ambition were not confined to one gender. These men, navigating a life of privilege and peril, were key players in the rich and complex tapestry of Japanese history. What do you think about this hidden side of ancient Japan? Let me know in the comments. Have you ever wondered about the lives of those who lived within the opulent walls of ancient palaces? We often hear stories of empresses and concubines, women who vied for the emperor's favor. But there's a lesser-known chapter of history, one that's just as complex and compelling. The world of male concubines. How did these young men find themselves in such an extraordinary position? The answer is rarely a simple one. For many, the journey began in childhood, long before they could make their own choices. Imagine being a young boy, perhaps just 10 or 12 years old. In many cases, these boys came from families struggling with poverty. For their parents, sending a son to serve in a noble or royal household wasn't seen as a loss, but as an incredible opportunity. It was a chance for their child to escape a life of hardship, to be well-fed, clothed, and educated. They might have believed it was a great honor, a way for the entire family to gain status and favor. It was a path to a better life, even if it meant giving up their son. Financial desperation was another powerful motivator. A family might find themselves deeply in debt or facing starvation. In these dire circumstances, giving a son to a powerful lord could be a transaction. In exchange for the boy, the family would receive money, land, or crucial protection from their enemies. It was a heartbreaking sacrifice, a choice made out of necessity rather than desire. The parents might have loved their son dearly, but they also had to ensure the survival of the rest of the family. The boy became a pawn in a larger game of survival. Then there were the instances of pure power. A powerful lord duke, or even an emperor might be traveling through a village or attending a festival and spot a particularly handsome or talented boy. It could be his looks, his skill in music or poetry, or simply an air of grace that caught the nobleman's eye. In these situations, there was no negotiation. The boy would simply be selected and taken to the palace. His family, regardless of their feelings, would have no power to refuse. To resist a powerful ruler could mean ruin or even death for the entire family. The boy's life was changed in an instant, swept away into a world he never chose. It's also important to remember that some were offered as political gifts. In the intricate web of ancient diplomacy, alliances were often sealed with valuable presents. A regional leader might send a gifted young man to the imperial court as a sign of loyalty and submission. This boy would represent his entire homeland, and his success at court could bring benefits back to his people. He carried the weight of diplomacy on his young shoulders, a living symbol of a political pact. Rarely, if ever, was the decision his own. Whether chosen for his beauty, given away out of poverty, or offered as a political token, the boy's own wishes were almost always irrelevant. He was thrust into a gilded cage, a world of luxury and intrigue, but one where his freedom was the price of entry. His life became a performance, his purpose defined by the desires of others. This forgotten side of palace life reveals a story not just of power and privilege, but of sacrifice, survival, and the profound lack of choice faced by so many in the ancient world. Understanding their origins helps us see them not just as historical footnotes, but as real individuals caught in the currents of their time. What do you think about this hidden aspect of history? Imagine stepping into a world that glitters with gold and jade, a place where every corner is a masterpiece of art and design. This was the palace, a stunning cage draped in luxury. Picture rooms where sunlight filters through delicate silk screens, casting dancing shadows on walls painted with epic tales and serene landscapes. The air is thick with the sweet, heady scent of expensive incense, a constant perfume that speaks of wealth and power. Outside, meticulously planned gardens offer a vision of tranquility. Ponds shimmer with koi, ancient trees twist towards the sky, and every pebble on the path seems placed with perfect intention. It's a world of breathtaking beauty, a living work of art designed to soothe the eye and calm the soul. But what if this paradise was also your prison? Behind the shimmering facade of silk and scent lay a rigid framework of rules, an invisible fortress that controlled every aspect of life. For the male concubines who called this palace home, the beauty was a constant reminder of their confinement. They were jewels in the emperor's collection, admired and possessed, but never truly free. The very walls that were so exquisitely decorated were also the boundaries of their world. They could not simply walk out of the gates to feel the dust of a common road under their feet or hear the unfiltered chaos of a bustling city. Their existence was confined to the gilded corridors and manicured gardens. Freedom of choice, something we often take for granted, was a concept that didn't exist for them. Friendships, for instance, were not forged over shared laughter or common interests. Instead, they were carefully navigated alliances, fraught with suspicion and rivalry. Who could you trust when everyone was vying for the same prize? The emperor's favor. A friendly conversation could be a strategic move. A shared secret could become a weapon. The palace was a web of intrigue, and every relationship was a thread that could either lift you up or pull you down. Forming a genuine bond was a dangerous, almost impossible act. And what about love? The most fundamental human emotion was the most forbidden of all. In a place where affections were currency and intimacy was a duty, falling in love was an act of rebellion. They were expected to devote their hearts and bodies to one person, the ruler, to give their heart to another. Whether it was a fellow concubine, a guard, or a servant, was to commit the ultimate betrayal. Stolen glances, secretly passed notes, a fleeting touch in a secluded corner, these were the thrilling, terrifying moments of forbidden romance. Such love, if discovered, wouldn't lead to a happy ending. It would lead to ruin, not just for them, but for the one they dared to love. So, their days were a performance. They mastered the arts of music, poetry, and conversation. They learned to dress in the finest silks, to move with grace, to present a perfect, pleasing image at all times. They smiled when they were sad. They feigned delight when they were bored, and they hid their true feelings behind a mask of serene compliance. Every day was a test of their acting skills, a silent battle to survive in a world that demanded their complete submission. The beautiful palace was not a home, it was a stage, and they were the actors, playing their assigned roles until the curtain finally fell. Their lives, surrounded by unparalleled beauty, were a poignant story of what is lost. Ever wonder what life was really like inside the gilded walls of a palace? We often imagine opulence, romance, and luxury. But for the women of the court, especially concubines, it was a world far more complex and dangerous than any fairy tale. Let's peel back the layers and explore the treacherous reality behind the glamour. First, let us get one thing straight. Being a concubine was just about being a companion to a powerful ruler. It was a deeply political role. These women weren't chosen just for their beauty or charm. Often, they came from powerful families, their presence in the palace serving as a living symbol of an alliance. Their families back home gained prestige and a direct line to the ear of the emperor. So, from the moment a woman entered the palace gates, she was no longer just an individual. She was a pawn in a massive, ongoing political chess game. When a ruler showed special favor to one concubine, the entire court held its breath. This favor wasn't just about lavish gifts or private moments. It translated directly into real-world power. Suddenly, her family might receive important government positions or lucrative contracts. Her words could influence the ruler's decisions on matters of state. She became a gatekeeper to the most powerful person in the land. And when one person rises, others see their own influence threatened. This is where the whispers began. The palace was a breeding ground for jealousy. Other nobles, rival families, and even other concubines would watch her every move. Every new dress, every shared meal with the emperor was scrutinized. The green-eyed monster wasn't just a personal feeling, it was a political strategy. If you could undermine the favored concubine, you could potentially elevate your own family or ally. The court was a web of shifting loyalties. Rivalries didn't just exist between the concubines themselves, they extended downwards to their servants, maids, and eunuchs. Everyone was trying to gain an edge for their mistress, because her success meant their security. This created an environment where gossip was currency and rumors were weapons. A cleverly planted story, a whispered accusation in the right ear, could be devastating, and the accusations could be about anything. Perhaps she was accused of being disrespectful to the empress, dowager, or worse, she might be accused of practicing forbidden arts to enchant the emperor. The most dangerous accusation of all was treason, that she was secretly plotting against the throne with her family. These weren't just petty squabbles. An accusation, even without proof, could lead to disgrace, exile, or even execution. A life could be built up over years of careful maneuvering, only to be destroyed in a single night by a well-timed lie. Think about the psychological toll. You're constantly walking on eggshells, surrounded by people who are smiling to your face, but might be plotting your downfall. You can't trust anyone completely, not even your own attendants. Every interaction is a calculation. Is this person a friend or a spy? Is their compliment genuine or a trap? This constant state of high alert was exhausting and isolating. The beautiful gardens and ornate halls of the palace could feel more like a prison than a home. Even raising children in this environment was fraught with peril. A son born to a favored concubine could become a potential heir to the throne, which made both mother and child a target. Succession struggles were brutal. Other concubines, and even the official empress, might see that child as a threat to their own sons' futures. The history of many dynasties is filled with tragic stories of princes who fell victim to palace intrigue before they ever had a chance to rule. So, while we are captivated by the dramas of the Imperial court, it's crucial to remember the human cost. Behind the silk robes and jade hairpins were real women navigating a world of immense pressure and constant danger. Their lives were a testament to resilience, ambition, and, all too often, tragedy. It was a world where a single misstep could mean the end, and survival depended on being just as cunning and ruthless as your rivals. Thanks for joining me on this deep dive. Have you ever wondered what life was really like inside a grand, ancient palace? Beyond the shimmering silks and extravagant feasts, there was a world of hidden rules and silent battles. It was a place where nothing was as simple as it seemed, especially for the women of the court. You see, a concubine wasn't just a companion to the emperor or a high-ranking lord. Her position was deeply intertwined with the very fabric of political power. Imagine this. If a ruler showed special favor to one woman, her influence would skyrocket almost overnight. Suddenly, her words carried weight. Her requests were granted, and her family status would climb the social ladder. This shift in power didn't go unnoticed. Other nobles, ambitious ministers, and rival families watched every move with keen eyes. A concubine's rise was a direct threat to their own standing. And in the closed-off, whispered world of the palace, jealousy was a poison that spread like wildfire. It wasn't just a matter of personal feelings. It was a strategic game where the stakes were incredibly high. The rivalries that emerged were complex and multi-layered. It wasn't just concubine against concubine. The conflict would ripple outwards, pulling in everyone around them. Her loyal servants would clash with the staff of a rival. Her family back home might find themselves in a sudden feud with another powerful clan. Even the eunuchs who managed the palace's daily affairs would be forced to pick sides, their loyalties tested and traded like currency. Every smile could hide a dagger, and every gift could be a Trojan horse. In this environment, information was the ultimate weapon, and rumors were the ammunition. A single, carefully planted whisper could be more devastating than any sword. An accusation, whether true or false, could completely destroy a person's life in a matter of hours. Picture a court official hearing a rumor that a certain concubine was secretly meeting with a general. That rumor could be twisted to suggest a conspiracy, a plot against the throne itself. The consequences were swift and brutal. That single whisper could lead to an immediate investigation, which was often just a formality. The accused might be stripped of her rank, confined to a desolate part of the palace known as the Cold Palace, or worse, her family could be exiled or executed, their entire lineage erased from the history books. There was no trial by a jury of your peers. The emperor's word, often swayed by the court's venomous gossip, was absolute law. Life was a constant performance. Every word had to be measured, every gesture calculated. A concubine had to be a master of psychology, able to read the subtle shifts in the emperor's mood, to navigate the intricate web of alliances, and to defend herself against invisible attacks. She had to be charming, intelligent, and ruthless, all at the same time. The goal wasn't just to win the emperor's affection, it was to survive. Think about the immense pressure. One day, you could be the most celebrated woman in the empire, showered with jewels and praised in poems. The next, you could be a forgotten prisoner, your name a taboo subject that no one dared to mention. This constant threat created an atmosphere of paranoia. Trust was a luxury few could afford. Even your closest handmaiden could be a spy for a rival, reporting your every secret for a bit of silver or a promise of protection. The political battlefield wasn't just in the throne room or on the war front. It was in the gardens, the private chambers, and the banquet halls of the Imperial palace. The conflicts that played out among these women often had real-world consequences, influencing military campaigns, succession plans, and the fate of the entire empire. So, the next time you see a period drama or read a historical novel, remember that behind the glamorous facade of palace life was a dangerous and intricate game of survival, where a single misstep could mean the end. It was a golden cage, beautiful on the outside, but fraught with peril within. Thanks so much for watching. If you're fascinated by the hidden histories of the past, make sure to like this video and subscribe for more stories. See you next time.